indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in prayer. Father in heaven, we are grateful for the day that you have given to us, grateful that it is a day of life, and grateful for the way that you have watched over us and you have taken care of us and you provided. I pray, Lord, that you help us to never forget the things that you do for us, even when we take them for granted. I ask you, Lord, that you bless as we take up the business of this town. Help us, Lord, to make wise decisions, for we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right. First thing we have is roll call.
Town of Vidalia Board of Aldermen roll call for the regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen. Alderman Betts.
Present.
Alderwoman Denby. Alderman Gardner.
Here.
Alderman Probst.
Here.
Alderman Smith.
Here.
Mayor, let the record show that a quorum is present and counted.
Okay, Miss Denby, Alderwoman Denby wants, we need to remember her. She's got a very sick brother who is I think he's in Houston, and she was traveling to spend time with him. I don't think he's doing very well, and she sends her, saying she's sorry she couldn't be here, so. All right, first thing we have in front of you is minutes from the previous meeting. Is there any questions, any additions or deletions? If not, I hear a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Alderman Gardner, here second.
Second.
Second by Alderman Probst. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we're going to move, what we're going to do is we normally at this time have public comments on any agenda item. If you've looked at that and you have any comments on them, you can certainly raise those comments now. However, when we get into the portion of the meeting on the agenda where we talk about reapportionment, we will allow public comment then, because, you know, after it's explained, we want to certainly allow you to respond, and we want you to. But if you have any other question or comment on any of the other agenda items, now would be a good time to make those. Is there any public comment anyone would like to make? Okay, we're going to move on into our agenda. First thing we have, Ms. Deborah Moak, our CPA and municipal accountant. She's going to give our financial statement for August.
Tonight's financial statements include the balance sheet as of August 31st, 2022, statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances for the 2 months ending August 31st, 2022, a summary balance to actual comparison by fund, and a detailed budget to actual comparison by department. These financial statements have been distributed to all department heads and to aldermen for their review. In summary, the town has combined cash in the bank of $23.6 million, which includes $21 million in the hydro fund and $1.4 million in the sales tax fund. Investments are $4.6 million, which $2.4 million of that is in the hydro reserve fund, $1.5 million is in the general fund, and $705,000 is in the ARPA funds. Total assets are $55.3 million. Total liabilities are $9.7 million, for a fund balance of $45.6 million. The statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance for the 2 months ending August 31st, 2022 indicates combined revenues of $8.4 million, total expenditures of $6.6 million, for a change in net position of $1.8 million. Overall, total revenues are up 16% of budget, expenses are at 13% of budget, transfers in and out are at 26% of budget, and the change in net position is 112% of budget. The overall net change is $1.8 million. Hydro rebates have been approved by the council members in September, but they're not included in the $2.8 million. Well, $2.8 million is not included in these financial statements, but will appear as a liability on the next month's financials. We will be sending out checks before Thanksgiving this year. Due to the low levels of the Mississippi River, hydro production has decreased for the month of September. For just 1 month of low water production, the town's hydro royalty decreased by $2 million. This will be reflected in September's financial statements. Sales tax collections for the year are up by $14,000 over the same time last year, and through September, collections are up by $69,000. Capital outlay is at 9% of the total amount budgeted. The town has purchased a new street sweeper, security cameras at the convention center, pipe cutting saw, transfer pump, and backwash valve for the water department. The town has received 14 new pickup trucks for the recreation department, the mechanic shop, fire department, and utility department. The police department has received 4 new Tahoes. These are 100% financed vehicles. The older model vehicles will be sold by Enterprise, and credit will be given back to the town. We are expecting more vehicles to come, but we're still waiting to receive them for the police department. We're still working with FEMA to recover the emergency work and debris removal costs caused by the 2021 storm. The total obligated federal share is $378,600. We have received approximately $196,000 to date. The remaining amount has been obligated but not received. Another 5% of the total obligated amount will be reimbursable to the town for administrative costs. The town has received a second payment from the American Rescue Plan in October. This brings the total amount collected to approximately $1.4 million. To date, we have reserved approximately $250,000 of the ARPA money to offset the July, August, September, and October power cost adjustment for the LEPA 1 on utility bills to all customers of Vidalia. The usage of the ARPA funds for this purpose was approved by the Board of Aldermen. The final trial balance has been provided to Silas Simmons to begin their audit. They have not yet set a date to begin their field work. Due to the amount of federal funds received in the 2021-22 fiscal year, they will perform additional audit procedures. The deadline to complete their audit is December 31st, 2022.
Okay, good report, Deborah. Any questions from the council? I would like to, she did hit on one important thing that, anytime that we have in your budget, you have either your general fund or your special revenue funds is out of what you budget out 5%, you have to amend your budget. I can tell you with the hydro, with low water, something that when we're forecasting, you can't predict that. We try to take the previous year's historical data and plug that into our agenda. We are going to have to amend our budget with this low water condition that we've got because they're just not generating. And for example, our 6% normally on a full month of generation is around 990,000. This past month, it was 250,000, I think. So, probably a third, almost a quarter, almost of generation that they can't with a low water year that we're having. But anyway, that's why we have the reserve fund in place, and we've got it where it's at to take care of it. There's no problem making the payments to buy the power. So anyway, again, thank you again, Deborah, for that report. Okay, we're going to move on to board discussion vote on approval of occupational license applications. The first one we have is Lenny's Handyman Service. Mr. Lenny Landry, is he here tonight? Lenny? He's not here. He's going to have a handyman services. He's on 112 Dandridge Street. And does anybody have any questions? Evidently, he's just offering probably light construction help and handyman services. He's not requesting a sign. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Alderman Betts. For a second.
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Smith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next we have is Coconuts Bar and Grill. I understand this is going to go into the Sandbar building. And this is going to be Mr. Ashley Allen, Sr. and of Elite Hospitality Management. Is Ashley here?
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. X. Hey, good. Appreciate you. Stand up a little bit and tell us about what you're going to do.
Okay, welcome. Thank you for having us. My name is Ashley Allen. My wife is Sarah Sukraj. We're from the Virgin Islands, so if you hear the accent. At the old Sandbar, we are going to do something Caribbean Southern, because we are almost the same, just about. So the flavors is Cajun, if you think about it, coming from the Caribbean. So we're going to pay homage on like your catfish, your local seafood, your fresh ingredients, and incorporate some music as well, and then some kind of happy hour, maybe early, because we drink early in the Caribbean. So island time, happy hour. So I mean that's really it. Just bring something new to Vidalia and fresh, and have some fun.
It's really good, y'all.
It is good? Well, good. We thank you for coming to Bidet and investing in Bidet. We hope that you're going to be very successful. Anything we can do, we certainly want to do that. So, but the first thing we got to do is get it approved, and I don't think we'll have any problems. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you as well.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Alderman Gardner. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Probst. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that completes our occupational license. Now we have going to our approval of outdoor sign applications. Again, this is the same business, Coconuts Bar and Grill. Is there any questions? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion made by Alderman Gardner. Here a second.
Second.
By Alderman Probst. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right. Next thing we got, recently I attended a conference, was actually a convention, and the Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative is local governments that are located all along the stem of the Mississippi River, all the way up to Minnesota, all the way down to New Orleans. And it's a coalition of mayors, and it's 124 mayors that get together, that meet and handle issues that are more or less restricted to us that live on the river, things that we have to deal with. And this was formed 10 years ago. This was their 10-year anniversary. And they had a big meeting in St. Louis. And our previous mayor, Mr. Hiram Copeland, is here tonight. And they recognize those mayors. And I can tell you what, this has been a very valuable organization that has been really helpful dealing with issues like with FEMA, Coast Guard, Corps of Engineers. These people have been almost, there's to have so much networking going on with that we can get so much resources from that. And I want to recognize him tonight because they had a little medal for him, and we had it put in a shadow box. And I would like to present that to him tonight and thank him for having the foresight to join that and be part of one of the founding members of that organization. And I'd like to present this to him, and if the alderman wanted to join us, get a picture maybe, Joe. So Hiram, would you come forward? And if you want to say something, we certainly want to do that. So we're going to get there. Come on out here.
Y'all want to get in the picture?
Sure, might as well.
Yep.
Y'all want to come get it? I like that.
First of all, the mayor and board and the commission for showing this honor upon me. I remember exactly when our commission started 10 years ago. Not brag, I had the pleasure to serve as the president of the commission when we first got started. It's a tremendous organization. As the mayor said previously, it's a tremendous asset to small communities, large communities up and down the Mississippi River. Very important economically. Also helps a lot of towns with waters, et cetera, and something like that. So again, Mayor, thank you for bestowing this upon me. I consider it a big honor.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it so much. Thank you. I can promise you that organization, and Hiram knows Colin very well. He's an Energizer bunny. He does a lot to keep us going and keeping us informed and in touch with people that can really help us a lot. And I can't thank everybody enough that had anything to do with putting this together. So, all right, let's move on. The next thing we have is a presentation on current programs and services provided by LSU Ag Center, and we have Miss Anna Alicia Gouge. I got it right. See, that's where I had to make sure I got that right. And she's the parish extension agent. So, come on, Anna.
Well, thank you guys for having me tonight. I really appreciate your time. Just really wanted to come and give an overall update first off on what we're doing at the Ag Center. Most people, when they think of the Ag Center, of course, we think of A&R and natural resources. People want to know about their trees, they want to know about their vegetables. So A&R has really been kind of working hard lately. We all know that we've lost a lot of crops this year. There's been a lot of crop damage, so they've been doing a lot of crop damage reports for us right now. 4-H also doing really well. We've finally moved to 4-H online, so enrollment is now online. We're actually seeing a pretty good increase. People get nervous when things are new, and enrollment's not on paper anymore. Now it's all on the internet. So we are actually seeing a pretty positive result as far as that goes. And that brings it to me. I'm the nutrition agent for the area. I do a lot of nutrition programming, but I also do healthy communities work for our town. So I've done a few grants. I just got a grant to run with our local Head Start group. We're going to be working with the little kids on tasting some new foods, doing some food education with them as well. Been working with the high school over here with their garden. We're about to start a hike coalition with the high school students over there also. They're going to be getting involved in doing some helpful activities, trying to be mindful more about their health behaviors. And then what I really came to talk about tonight was the DOT grant that we're trying to help you guys apply for. This was kind of speared through the Ag Center. Ag Center really did try to partner with DOT and kind of pull them out of the woodworks like they usually kind of sit back. And so there's a program called a Rural Complete Streets. This program in the past has looked at having a 20% match rate by the town. And in most rural communities, that's really not viable when you're looking at $1 million sidewalk projects. So since this money was being underused, they have dropped it down to a 5% match rate. So what we are trying to do is work with the town to help create a complete streets project. So what that would do is we would have town engineers and DOT engineers working together to redo sidewalks to be ADA compliant also. The sidewalks need to go from a point A to point B, so not just, various sidewalks around the town. They have to go somewhere, so they have to have some type of connectivity to it. So I do have an older application that I can email to you guys so that you guys can see it. They haven't released the application yet. But we did have a summit. We were able to meet with DOT. They kind of gave us a rundown of what the application was going to look like, what we were going to need to do, and what we needed to come back and tell you guys. So we were able to meet with a DOT engineer at this summit who gave us a lot of really good feedback to help with planning. They recommended that we work in phases on a project. So we were actually looking at starting a phase at the high school because there's no sidewalks near there. And there's a lot of kids that walk. You can look on Google Maps and you can see a footpath of where the kids are walking to get to school. And that's okay, but in order to create the safety aspect of it, we can come back in with some sidewalks. So that project would run from the high school, run down Murray, and it would actually connect back into the shopping center because we have to go from point A to point B, right? And running down Concordia Avenue through the field is not really a smart option, okay? Phase 2 was recommended to actually connect Vidalia Lower to Vidalia Upper down Concordia Avenue, okay? I don't know if anybody's ever walked those sidewalks over there. You probably didn't because you can't, because there's not any on some parts. There's no sidewalk, it just stops. It's very arbitrary on where there is and where there isn't. And so we looked at doing that, completing those sidewalks to help with the connectivity of that street. This would also include having the ADA ramps going down and up on that end. And the third phase, we looked at helping create that back neighborhood and doing a lot of their sidewalks are in pretty good shape. Some of them do need some repair, but making those ADA compliant as well. This grant runs every 2 years, okay? We were all but told, apply and you'll get the money.
What's the limit? What's the limit on it?
There is no limit.
There is no limit?
There is no limit.
Okay, because I know that we've approved, I know that we haven't got final approval, but we're using some funds for sidewalks in District 2.
Okay.
We've had a citizen show up and request a sidewalk for that high school,
Yeah.
connecting his community, because he walks over there a lot.
Right.
And so that is certainly good timing. And if I'm not mistaken, I think one of our newest employees, Miss Loren Scott, went with y'all.
She did.
She did go with you guys?
Yes,
Okay,
Miss
great.
Loren and Miss Georgiana, actually.
Okay, good, great.
They both went with me as a team. So we got some cohesion there. And like I said, we weren't able to meet with our district rep for DOT, but we did meet with District 8's. He was very helpful, very informative. He's been at it for a while, so he had some really good feedback to give us. So we would like to see obviously some future phases by applying in future years for more grants, because we'd like to go across the highway and we'd like to connect with the junior high. There's a lot of walk paths over there at the junior high that the kids don't utilize the sidewalks all the time. They just kind of utilize some grass areas every now and then. So we'd like to try to fix that as well. And then also doing that connectivity from Murray to go across the highway into those neighborhoods also, because currently there is none. And I know we've all seen kids running across the highway right there, right? So super unsafe, but we would like to try to fix that. We also, Ag offers a walk audit, is what we call this. I passed out that paperwork for the walk audit. We do this free of charge. Somebody from LSU Ag Center comes in, and we kind of walk around the town. Usually we like to try to find a 1 mile back to front, kind of a connectivity point. Ag will come in and they will do an assessment report on this area. So this is just another tool that we can present whenever we do apply for grants. The more, obviously the more information that we're able to give, whatever organization is offering the money, the better. So what we obviously would like to have as far as doing this walkability walk audit, community members, preferably somebody with a baby, with a stroller, getting their input as far as walking. We would like to have anybody who has mobility issues to also join us and get their feedback. Any churches that are connected along that route, having those parishioners or pastor or church leader come also, because there's a lot of people that do walk to churches as well. We'd like to have a DOT engineer and somebody from the town to represent us too, and anybody from a school or a library.
Okay.
So
That sounds good to me. I know that sounds good to, I know Robert like that.
Just don't forget the connection to the rec department up there either. That's another long-term,
Yeah.
get to where we can access walkability to the recreation.
And another spot that's really part of it, it's not in city limits, that I see a lot of children walking is in front of Walmart,
yes,
crossing from those the neighborhoods in the back, down Moose Lodge Road and all that.
definitely.
That's they're coming,
That would get 'em.
and it's really a lot of truck traffic in there, and a lot of,
Yes,
it's not the best lit area, so I think it's great, and we certainly want to work with you, and if there's the money's not a limit, we certainly want to talk
Yeah,
with
so
you,
that's
get it
the
all
good thing
fixed.
about this program is that ultimately, our goal when we were there, we wanted to see a sidewalk running 425/84. We wanted to see one running almost from the bridge to Walmart. There are a lot of people that do have to walk to the grocery store, and this would also connect so many businesses along that route too. We do have a lot of people who have wheelchair access issues in our town, and I do see a lot of them on the highway. And so this would really kind of help that situation out. So long-term, yes, we would love to see that project extend along the highway. I do know that that's a very expensive undertaking, but if this grant stays as is, I feel like 5% is very doable right about now. This is almost unheard of to go down this low as far as a match grant.
We're
So,
certainly going to work with you on that and keep
Wonderful.
Lorraine and Georgianne on it. And so thank you very much.
Is it a time frame on applying, getting?
Yeah, so they actually haven't opened up the grant yet. They said that it'll be open in November. They did not give us a day, and usually closing is in December. I do have the grant application. I know that's a super tight timeline, but.
That's usually the case when the government gives money. They
it
put you on a
is.
tight timeline.
It is a tight timeline. We did look through it, and a lot of this, they're not expecting towns to have an engineer on staff to write this up for you immediately. They are definitely fine, and I did ask this, with me doing a markup on a Google image of our street
Right.
and me showing where there is and isn't a sidewalk. I do not have to have professionally engineered drawings to submit for this grant, which kind of makes that a little bit easier. DOT does.
So would you work with Lorraine and Georgianne and maybe some other staff, Lee?
Any staff that has this engineering
can-
mindset would be great.
Because, you know, with also maybe residents from each, you know, or somebody, even the aldermen from those respective districts, maybe look over at whatever y'all look at, you know, and
Certainly.
identify those sidewalks that need this, and the ones that do need completed. We just finished a sidewalk, you know, repair project that wound up being about 80-something thousand, I think. I think that was about the total on it. 80 to 90. But
Yeah.
anyway, so we're certainly interested, and thank you so much. And we will be talking with you
Yeah,
soon.
we'll definitely get more information over to you on it. as
Yeah,
much
because
as
we want to
they
make
do
sure we
cover.
get everything within that timeline. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Okay. Okay, next thing we have is report on current issues with the Bidet Port. I have Mr. Bryant Killen, who is the Deputy Director, is going to talk to us a little bit about what's going on at the port.
Thank you all for having me. I have a few updates at the port. We've had some good news over the past month. We've signed Archer Daniels Midland to a terminal usage agreement. A big win for the parish and the region. Second thing is Phase 2 is creation of the Slackwater Slip. Just today, I got news from the Army Corps of Engineers that we did pass the seepage analysis.
All right, that's good news.
So they're going to create a decision document by the end of the week to get that to us so we can go to full design after that. By the end of the month, we ought to know if we are going to be awarded for the MARAD grant application that we submitted earlier this year. Our portion of that is going to be about $4.5 million. One unfortunate thing, we did have a vandalism event at the port. It is an open investigation. I can't speak to the particulars on that until that's wrapped up. We have filed a claim, and our agent, Mr. Chandler, has been navigating us through those waters. We have started a bank stabilization project through facility planning, and in that project, we're going to include additional security fencing to more adequately secure the facility. I just wanted the mayor and the board to be aware of all of that if you weren't already.
Okay, any questions?
I was just wondering in fencing, but also cameras. I know a lot of sites while they're building and put cameras on those facilities to
Yes,
be
sir.
able to watch. What are
That-
y'all's possibilities with cameras?
That will be some, I know ADM is going to put their own cameras up, but that is something that we did talk with the engineer as well as the fencing, putting up cameras at the corners.
And usually that's to apprehend. A lot of times that doesn't stop it, but
No.
it's just to help with it. I will say, speaking of cameras, that they completed here recently, Bobby and the IT team installed cameras or had them installed. We have pretty good coverage on the riverfront, and that's going to be extended on through town. So really, well, thank you, Bobby, for the work, for you and your department, for all that you're doing. And these are really high quality. We've got them on the bridge now. If we have anybody come over, just want to let everybody be aware, if you do something in the day, you might want to take your license tag off before you leave, because we can't read it.
I have a question about the cameras they're talking about. Are they gonna have a DVR on site there, or are they the big ones monitoring it, or do we need to try to, I've got fiber built out there, so do we need to try to get that back?
They know not to do anything until they talk with you.
Do what?
They know not to do anything as far as making those decisions until they talk with you. Yes.
They got you in the loop, Bob.
Yeah, that's it.
They know they better talk to you, huh, Bob?
My personal opinion, I think it needs to be off-site in case somebody did go out there and they had any kind of knowledge of it. That DVR where that information is stored shouldn't be in an office or on site at the port. That's just my opinion. And I would think, and unless there's some logistically problems with that. But
I think with us going with IP cameras, we'll have to put another NVR to accommodate more cameras, because they'll only accommodate 32, and right now we have 31 that's going to be on the riverfront. So if we put another NVR and then put the cameras out there and then have it, we can get it all the way back to the police department, so that the police department can actually, and whoever else wants to monitor those particular cameras, we can get it where they can monitor.
And I can actually pull those up right down in my office, those that they put on, and others can too, that's in police department and others, Bobby and them. So, all right, Bryant, thank you so much
Thank
for the
y'all.
report. Appreciate it. Okay, going to number 7 is presentation on proposed reapportionment plans for the town of Vidalia and Dr. William Blair with Strategic Demographics. Doctor, come on and
Set up a PowerPoint here. Well, that warms up. Let me say thank you for having me here tonight, council, mayor, and the public. My name's William Blair. During the day, I am the demographer and redistricting expert for the Louisiana legislature. But I have been hired also by the city of Vidalia to be your demographer and redistricting expert. And we're here tonight to talk about redistricting. And we have 2 plans to talk about. So I have this PowerPoint. Before I say anything else, let me just say this. In my work with all my jurisdictions, I also work for the school board and the police during Concordia, successfully completing the redistricting. And in my capacity at the legislature and in any jurisdiction I work in, we are expected to be objective staff, nonpartisan, no group preference, and I apply that sort of decision-making to anything I do, any jurisdiction I work in, just so we're clear on any of that. Also for the public, when you hear redistricting, people usually think smoke-filled back rooms and deals being cut, because that's sort of the political atmosphere environment. And I'm here to tell you that I'm not saying there's no politics in redistricting, but generally speaking, it is a function of legal components that we must adhere to. And once you adhere to those things, all the decision-making is usually taken care of for you. So with that as an opening statement, let's talk about redistricting. I could say all this in 5 minutes. I'm going to try and do it in 10. Well, we're going to do it in 1. Did I break it already? Oh. Sabotaged already.
there it goes.
Here, why don't you just cycle through it? Sorry, guys. Thank you. This generally be way too much information. But just in case, what is redistricting? It's redrawing your districts to achieve population equality. We're here because of federal and state law requires us to do this after every decennial census. Vidalia is responsible for its own redistricting. The council itself has to go through this process and adopt an ordinance to make this happen, just like police juries and school boards and the legislature, everybody else has to do the same. Since Vidalia does not run their elections until 2024, we just have to have this process done by December 31st of this year. That is a state requirement, punishable by malfeasance in office if you don't get it done by the end of the year. So we need to get it done by the end of the year. Why does it happen? Like I just mentioned, federal and state law, Supreme Court decisions also determine how we must do this sort of redrawing of districts. There's 2 kind of pillars by which we stand on with redistricting. The first is equal population. Under the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, Supreme Court has told us every district, every representative in a district must have pretty equal population to be legal. Now, some of the terms you hear, ideal population, that would be, and I have the numbers down there at the bottom in red, ideal is taking the number of districts you have, dividing by the population of Vidalia, and that is your ideal district. Now, we're going to have ourselves, but we're going to try and move from a 3
three-person multi-member district and 2 single-member districts. Seems to be the will of the desire of the council to go to a 5 single-member district plan, and we can talk about the validity of that or the rationale behind it if you like. But if you're using 5 districts, divided by 4,062, you get 812. So let's round down. 800 people per district. Legally, we must get within plus or minus 5% on either side of that 800, okay? That's 40 people. So when we get a little further, it's just good that the fact that it's 40 people is your differential really sort of limits your decision-making in drawing districts in a Vidalia, much more so than you'll see in a police, jury, or school board, much less a legislature. This is way too much information. I throw this slide in here just to say, and sort of an irony of ironies, the Supreme Court of the United States did not decide we needed equal population until 1962 in districts, because Texas hadn't redrawn its congressional districts since 1901. Just shows you we've come a long way. The standards are essentially plus or minus 5%. When you're looking at your districts, at the very bottom in red, these are some of the things you're supposed to consider, such as communities of interest, compactness, preserving the cores of prior districts, and avoiding contests between incumbents. Those are all sanctioned Supreme Court reasons when making decisions about drawing a district. Now, the second pillar on which we stand is the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And you see it there. Do not intentionally discriminate against a protected minority group. What that means is if you can draw a minority district, you should. Now, Vidalia has a minority district, District 1, which can be maintained after the 2020 census. Vidalia is 26% African American. That, although there's no legal requirement for proportionality, certainly one of 5 districts when the African American population is 25% should be a black district in Vidalia. That's the Supreme Court case that set this out. Thornburg v. Jingles in 1986 sets forth the criteria by which you draw these districts. Edited by 1993 Shaw v. Reno, which demanded that race can be one of many factors when drawing a district, but cannot be the predominant factor when drawing a district. And anybody that's been doing this work or has been involved in redistricting more than 10 years knows that after the 2010 census, Louisiana jurisdictions under Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act had to send their plans to the Department of Justice for preclearance to be judged whether or not they were discriminatory. In 2013, the Supreme Court held in Shelby County v. Holder that all those covered jurisdictions under Section 5 were relieved of that responsibility for a variety of reasons, which we can go into if we're interested. But the bottom line is, any jurisdiction that discriminates under Section 2 is more than likely going to be reinserted back into Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which is yet another reason to think long and hard when you're drawing districts in any jurisdiction. I always tell my clients they should think that we're still under Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. That's the way you don't get in trouble. State legal requirements. Really, you're a Larson Act municipality. That's really governed under Title 33 of the revised statutes. Essentially what you have to do, give them plus or minus 5%, follow your traditional redistricting criteria, be conscious of the Voting Rights Act, and the rest of those sorts of dates really don't concern us because we're way ahead of schedule since you don't have elections for 2 years. You've already done this, which is examine your current districts, insert the 2020 population into them, and if they are more than plus or minus 5%, then we call that malapportioned. And you've adopted an ordinance already that identifies and admits and says, yes, we're malapportioned, we will redistrict. That's just part of state law. Well, For municipalities, this really doesn't apply. You're supposed to use whole election precincts. Obviously, that's impossible in a city like Vidalia. So we have to use census blocks. Now, those census blocks are the jigsaw puzzle pieces we must use, and it's whatever the census gives us. We don't get to determine what those census blocks are. So we have a finite number of blocks, jigsaw puzzle pieces, from which to construct these districts. They also supposed to be on physical features, and which can complicate things, which I'll show you directly in a second. Okay, this is your current districts. It's also on this map over here. The green is the three-person district. District 1 is the minority district, and District 2 is also a single-member district. Now, I can almost read that, but here's our real problem with Vidalia after the 2020 census. District 1, the minority district, is 20% too low. That's like 200 people too low. No, 160 too low. District 2, 12% too low. And District 3, 10% too high. So, we have to move around population within those districts to get them back to that plus or minus 5%, plus or minus 40 people. Now, we have to be real careful because District 1 is a minority district. And in the 2010 census is around 75% African-American voting age population. Well, I'm going to show you a slide in a second which will prove this point, but you can't keep District 1 as a 70% minority district given the population decrease in District 1. So District 1 has to go somewhere to get that population. Same with District 2. And District 3 has to lose. Now, I've mentioned that already. Let's keep going. Okay. Here is every census block in Vidalia. The darker the green, the more people are in it. So, dark green is about 15% of a district, 15 to 20% of a district. So, you can kind of see that some of those building blocks are so big that it really limits your decision-making in how to draw a district in Vidalia. Here is every block in Vidalia with the higher percentage of voting age population African-American in green. So if our job, our first job, or second job, is to maintain that District 1 as a minority district, we have to stay right where it is and just go a little outside to try and keep it as high African-American voting age population as we can. So that's kind of the dilemmas we were faced in Vidalia in 2020 or 2022. Now here's our proposed payout plans. They're right here too, A and B. What do they do? Well, and you can also see when you're looking at these maps later or online that the blue line you see is the current boundary. So you can see where the blue line doesn't match the color is where we've moved stuff around. So in Plan A, District 1 comes up the south into District 2 to get the population it needs to become legal. And District 2 has to go more west to get population to make up the difference. And you can see the number you need to be interested in is percent deviation, make sure they're all within plus or minus 5% with it, which they are, and voting age population black, which is the last column. So when we move, we have to get that population to make District 1 work. It lowers the VAP, the voting age population, to 62.6% voting age population African American. Now, that's still a performing minority district. Every legal issue is accounted for. Now, secondarily, District 2 is also represented by an African American. And while it is not a minority-majority district, it's also incumbent upon Vidalia to not lower District 2's voting age population below what it was 10 years ago, which was 44%. And we've done that too here, where it's at 46.45%. So mission accomplished. But as you know, there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? So let's go to B. B makes another decision. Instead of 1 coming south into 2, instead it goes sort of northeast into former District 3 to get the population it needs. And District 2 comes into District 1 a little on the south and goes a little north on the west, on the eastern boundary of the city. This, again, deviation or fine, all within plus minus 5%. The voting age population of District 1 is 58.9% VAP, District 2, 47, so those still meet those metrics. Oh, that's it. Okay, that wasn't 30 minutes, thankfully. That's the short story of why we do redistricting, why we must do it, and sort of the way the census works and the blocks we're given sort of determine fairly consistently which ways we're able to do it. There's the limited choices, I should say. So I'm happy to take any questions from the council, the mayor, or the public.
Okay, any questions from council? To Doctor? Any questions from the audience for the doctor? It looks like you've done your job well.
Or put everybody to sleep, too.
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Nice to see all y'all.
Thank you very much. You did a good job. Now, what this will do, we can introduce the ordinances. There's Plan A is going to be introduced, and Plan B, it will be, we can discuss a little bit of it tonight if you want to, or we can just go ahead and start doing what we need to do, introduce the ordinance and voting on it at our next meeting. Is there any question from the public on it, as far as process? Mr. Freelo?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. I presume John Betts has got tired of me coming into his office talking about this for the last 10 years. I've talked to each one of you. I think the gentleman did an excellent job in his proposal. As far as an individual, I don't really care about the deviation or anything as long as it's fairly close and it's got one man, one vote. I've been talking about that. He said he represents the police jury too. Well, they do a terrible job. They just awful. They've got this unfairness in their system now, just as you had in yours with the three representatives from one district and one from the other two. If I'd have been in District 3 last time, voting for the 3 aldermen, I'd have had a tough time with that, because I think y'all had 5 running, and I liked all 5 of y'all. But I'd like the one man, one vote, and as I've been here 14 years, I'm glad to see it finally possibly come to fruition. And I thank y'all for your efforts.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. All right, if there's no other questions, we're going to go ahead. This is an introduction only.
So, I have something to say pertaining to the matter. I did spend about 2 hours with the doctor, and I'll say I'm just, at this time, because of the time frame, I'm not just 100% satisfied and confident in the redistricting map at this time. I feel like we need more time. I support, let's get it clear, I support it being the 5 district, but I just don't feel like, feel the need to be more time to review in these maps because they'll potentially affect us for the next 10 years or even longer. My old district plan, I did not have Texas Street or Pecan. In map A, it gave me Texas Street and Pecan. In map B, it took it away and gave it to District 1. The original district, when we had the at-large district, the aldermen of the at-large district represented Texas Street and Pecan. This was part of the at-large district. I feel it should go back to one of the 3 members of the at-large district. If we will be handed District 1 or 2, Map A showed, well, it showed the 70 to 75%, it dropped to 62%, and the plan that I helped him with, which was 2, went down to 58%, talking about the minority voters. I feel we need to table this plan to take more time on making sure that we are making the best decisions for the town of Vidalia as a whole. I do understand there's a time frame, but I ask that we do not rush for approval of the map because we have until December to make the final decision. So that's my thought.
Okay, anybody got any comment? I would like to say this. Doctor, I don't think I ever spoke to you until last week, and that was on the phone, and this is after you had done your work. His first plan that he came back with was one that he not talked to anybody. It was very independent, it was very objective, and as he said, as he explained to it, it was within the law of what we have to deal with. And that was, I think everybody that looked at it was in agreement with it and very satisfied with it. I know Ms. Denby told me she was very satisfied with it, and just, she was showing it. And Plan 2 only originated Alderman Garner because Alderman Garner didn't like it. And so he presented a Plan B. At the risk of getting into a pinch and because it requires 2/3 vote, is that not right? Is that right? That requires 4 members to vote, not just a majority. You know, I don't want to push this thing because you heard what it said. If we don't get it done, it's malfeasance. Somebody can come in and do that. I think the man's presented a very good, viable plan that's very fair. And Alderman Garner, he increased the black members in your district from 42 or 44% to 40, was it 48%?
47.
47?
47.
He increased your district to where you have more African American voters. I can't see why you would be against that. And what more work do we need to do?
Well,
Is it because you don't, what I heard, you didn't want to represent the trailer park? Is that true? We can't pick and choose who we want to represent. This man did an independent study and gave us a good plan, the first plan that everybody liked.
and that is not what I said and how I said it. I did say I did not want to represent 6th Street. District 1 Alderman did not really want to represent it too from what I got, and evidently the Alderman in 3, they passed it on to however it went, and I was told that he originally sat down with these 3 aldermen without Alderman 1 and 2 even being present when they first presented the map because I was out of town during the time. But it does not matter about the increase of 3% of the minority. I just, at this point in time, feel like I'm not 100% strong on supporting this at this time, and that if we table it, let's look, instead of a 2-hour time period that I put into researching and talking to him, I'm just not confident in it. It's that simple. It's not about no just 100% black. It's about I'm not confident in making a decision at this time.
I really don't know how to address that. Are there any other aldermen got questions about it?
I like the plan.
Again, I don't know what more do you have to investigate? What do you not? I would like to know because
Well,
I'm just curious why.
I'm not 100% satisfied, and all I'm asking for is more time to sit down with the doctor. And he also had his, he said this was one of the hardest maps that he had to, am I right, doctor, that he had to potentially even put together because he was trying to make sure everything was befitting as well. So,
I just got to, how many times have you changed the map?
Well,
with Alderman,
Alderman Gardner is correct. This is the hardest one I've done. And it's this hard because of the way those census blocks look. That's why I put them up there. I don't usually show what census blocks look like when I do a plan. The fact of the matter is those large green areas that border 1 and District 2 sort of limit your choices about how to make up that 30% that's missing, okay? And in the time we spent together, is it okay, do I have your approval to breach confidentiality of our discussions to talk about this a little bit? Yes.
I have no problem.
No. Yes, okay. You're limited with what you can do. It's that Texas Street, there's something right across Ms. Denby's district you could maybe use. Once you start rolling up one district to another, that population has to roll up to somebody else, okay? That's the real problem with drawing these districts. And my main concern when I attempted to draw districts for Vidalia, without speaking to anybody, and that's true, that Plan A, that was me. That was not, that's, you know, I sat down with the three from District 3 to show them what I had done, and they were fine with it. Before I talked to you, absolutely. And I made the choices trying to keep Ms. Denby's district above 60% VAP. Because it was 70 before. That may be too high, but you know, just try to keep me in the 60s, okay, that was, or high 50s. That's my goal. Without any, I don't know the geography of Vidalia. I'm from Baton Rouge, right? Y'all know Vidalia more than I do, clearly. So those decisions I made had nothing to do with what's good or bad for anybody's district. It's only about how do we get this math to work with the puzzle pieces we're given by the Census Bureau, period. Mr. Gardner had a different idea, and you see it here represented in Plan B. Is there a Plan C out there, or D or E or F? Probably. You give me enough time, I'll draw you 100 plans. But I don't know if you can, because the way the population is so tight in Vidalia, you're limited in the choices you have to make. And I think it's, you know, it's difficult to make everybody happy, I think. Now I'm rambling on, so I'm going to shut up.
Well, I think that the fact that without talking to anyone, you came up with a plan that kept us in the law, did what it was supposed to do with the 5 districts. And that's all we could ask for. Nobody from the board influenced the districts. Nobody said anything. Now, we reviewed them and we looked at it. We looked at basically the same requirements that the law requires us to do, and you met that plan. So I think that plan should be supported by this board, because without prejudice from anyone, you presented a plan that fits the need that we have. We've like Kevin said, they've been asked years for a 5-member board. I have no problem with that. I'm glad to see that it's going to be done. But I think that for us not to support a plan that was without prejudice, which brings us into compliance with all that, would be very wrong. And I support the plan.
And me personally, I don't like to look at a map and see it not, I don't say symmetrical, but when you have a district that kind of runs over here to grab these, that's why I like Plan A. It's pretty symmetrical, and it's.
What I don't want to get to.
Let me make a comment. You already had yours.
I'm going to make another one. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me get a shot.
Okay.
Okay. No, my thing is, 9 by is right. He did that. Each of us were put in a different district, still had the opportunity to to run without any problem. Did that. He also was able to make it where, like I said, everybody had the option to agree or disagree, because you gave us all the time to discuss it, and all is true. But the biggest thing is we're representing the people of Vidalia no matter where we're at. And it's our responsibility to represent the people, whoever they are. And I just feel like wherever you got the districts is where you got a campaign, where you got to go get the people, and I'm satisfied with it too. That's just the way I feel.
I just, what I see, if we go start moving streets, you're going to have, because I'm going to tell you, Ms. Rose was very adamant about Plan 1, because I know that this Plan B there was taken going into her district and getting people who she's supported and has represented. I mean, she was very much, and I think if we get into moving streets around, we're going to get into stuff we just don't want to get into. Who we're going to do. This is a fair plan. Nobody can argue this plan you drew. They can't say so-and-so had any influence in it, because till today, I've never laid eyes on you, doctor. You know that. And again, till I talked to you after these plans had been presented, had nothing to do with it. It wouldn't matter to me anyway. I gotta be a mayor for everybody in the district. That don't matter. So it don't matter to me. But what I do think is that I do believe in it being independent in those decisions. And if Brent wanted to start coming in and saying, I don't like that street there, those people I know, they don't like me. We get into that, or I think we're gonna be here and I don't want to even jeopardize it all. I want us to come in next month and vote on this and have it done a month ahead of time in case we run into any kind of trouble.
Yeah, like I said, when I first saw it, what you drew up, I just looked at the.
We're going to go ahead and introduce the ordinances. Okay. The first one is we're going to item 8, introduction of it. This doesn't require a vote. This is introduction, so they don't require any kind of vote. Introduction of an ordinance to adopt the redistricting plan 2022A for the Bidet Town Council after the 2020 census and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And then item number 9 is introduction of an ordinance to adopt the redistricting plan 2022B for the Vidalia Town Council after the 2020 census and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Okay, those ordinances, let the record reflect, they have been introduced and they will be on next meeting agenda for a vote and more public comment. Now, we're going to item number 10, which is introduction of an ordinance to regulate the application and payment of rebates for the town's electric customers. And just to set the stage, when we started getting up to these larger payments to all of our citizens and businesses on the rebates, there were some, there wasn't any parameters. It was agreed to of what we would do and how much we would rebate, but there wasn't clear instructions on how much would you pay if somebody, what establishes somebody as past due. If somebody 15 days or somebody 30 days. So this ordinance is basically establishing set guidelines on how we disperse the rebates. For example, the delinquency amount is 30 days. If you're 30 days delinquent, you're going to get a credit on your account. And it also discusses on how, if there's any left over, it's going to remain a credit unless you come and apply and go through application process to get the difference. Otherwise, it's going to remain as a credit. And it's just got other things. Anything that's under $25 will not be rebated. It'll be put as a credit towards your account. And it's just those things that we address on this. So again, this is an introduction. Just look at it. If you have any questions over the next month, if you look at it, have any other questions on it, we certainly want to answer your questions on that. So this is what this is. So we're introducing this ordinance to regulate the application and payment of rebates for the town's electric customers. Okay, next up, and I do want to recognize Mr. Peter Osiers with Syra. He's here tonight. Peter, good to have you. We've got a couple of things here. We're fixing to have some resolutions to approve. The first one is, there was a road that was a dedicated servitude going by the old Louisiana Elastomer building that granted access to the side of the whole property, I will call that the north side of the property. And there was a property adjacent to it that they have recently purchased. And basically, this first resolution does away with that servitude, which will give them full use, and the servitude will not exist there anymore for them to have full access of their property to do with what they want to, and it not be a servitude. So is there any questions on that before we move forward? We're just abandoning that servitude, so to speak. Council, did I say that right? Right. Okay. So if there's no questions, can I hear a motion that we approve this resolution to abandon this servitude?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Alderman Best, a second by Alderman Probst. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now the next one, and this is, Sabra is probably the only business, I think, in the country that's had a Department of Energy loan. They're the first in 10 or 11 years, I think, that's been granted to them. The Department of Energy has actually made a request to them on the back side of their property where the town owns that strip, that road behind it that a lot of people call the drag strip before we put a gate up across it. The Department of Energy wanted us to grant them a servitude where they could actually access that property off of that road, and there wasn't a servitude in there. And what this does, if you'll look at your packet on the very back page, you'll see that little servitude that's drawn on the map.
Right.
If you'll see it, it's the access servitude is on the bottom part of your diagram. This is a requirement for them to satisfy the Department of Energy, and so that's all this is. And any questions on that? Can I hear a motion that we approve this resolution to support the grant access servitude to Cyra Technologies?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Alderman Smith. Here a second.
Second.
Second by Alderman Betts. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Peter, you want to give us an update on the construction?
Thank you, Mayor Kraft. Thank you, Alderman. The public this evening. As you know, we've been working out there for quite a while now. Of the $177 million that we've had approved for the project, we've got about $128 million is currently being committed, and you'll have seen that some work is starting to happen out there. At the moment, we've had rig masters come in and they've put a new base down for us to commence work on. Then after rig masters, we had Browns come in and they put in 497 piles into the ground. Each of those piles 50 feet long, 2 feet in diameter, and we've filled them with crete, and we've also put reinforcing rod in there and built those piles up. At the moment, you'll see more concrete trucks going out there. Patriot have commenced work. They were going to have about 68 employees, but because we're running late with the project, Patriot have employed, I think they've got about 14 local guys they're working for us now on top of their normal crew they've brought in from elsewhere, and they're putting in the concrete works, the foundations, building the formwork for that. We've been pouring about, since it stopped raining, the raining put us a little bit behind, and that's why I said we had to catch up. Since we had the rain and that's all stopped, we've been pouring about 400 to 500 cubic yards of concrete each week. Since then, we've put down 2 pads for 2 buildings, and we've had, so that work's been going on. We have announced that Primoris is going to be our major contractor. They're based in Baton Rouge and elsewhere in the Gulf. And we're also just at the moment of releasing the electrical and instrumentation contract. That's another $10 million contract. The Primoris one was about $24 million, and that's just been done in the last couple of weeks. You'll start to see that we've had some big buildings come in. We've had one of our motor control centres arrive. We're sorry for the people it caused problems with on the highway while we brought it in, but it was far better to buy a prefab one that come out of Texas. There'll be another one of those coming in about the next 4 weeks, and then we have another one which will arrive in March next year. We're currently on schedule for the 6th of September next year, and we should have the last of our contracts released to our contractors by the end of October this year. So things are going very well ahead, and we do appreciate the efforts of Jay and his team in the council, Mayor Kraft as well, and the rest of the aldermen who have allowed us to get this project underway. We liken it to running a marathon at a sprint pace because we have a very short period of time to get this project up and running. We do have works in plan for the phase 3, which will be the next phase that comes along after this one, to expand it from about 11,250 up into the sort of 40,000 tonne mark, and we're working on that now with our team. So we're looking forward to having many more years here and working with the people of the city of Vidalia to improve the conditions in Vidalia. We've started working with the Chamber of Commerce. We were lucky enough to receive an award from them, and we're also working with Mayor Kraft and the LED as to how we can leave a lasting legacy here in Vidalia. So things are going very well according to plan. Has anybody got any specific questions for me? Happy to answer them.
Peter, thank y'all so much. Really, y'all are doing a wonderful job, and y'all have made a big, profound impact on our region, not only just Bidet, but the whole region. So thank you very much. Okay. Next thing we have is board discussion vote on approval of a resolution of support to, wait, we already had that. I'm sorry. The last thing on our agenda, board discussion vote on approval of new life insurance benefit for town employees. We've recently met with Pat and Stan Hazlett with Hazlett Companies, who basically handle our health insurance, and we was looking at something that might be a great benefit, not only for our employees, but for their families in the event they were to pass away or something. But as a group, you know, a lot of times if you want to go get insurance as a group, you know, you're going to have to do the blood tests, and a lot of times your premium's going to be based on how good a health you're in. But as a group, I think we can offer, and I would like the town to pay for this, is I think right now employees have, what, $15,000 benefit, and that's free to them.
15,000.
Yeah, and it's costing the town, yeah, 2,000. We can up that to $75,000 for their employees for a total of $3,000 a month. So for just another $1,000, we can give our employees a $75,000 life insurance policy that would be very, very important to their families if something happens to them. And I wanted to ask the council if they would approve that expenditure and that benefit for our employees. And I'll be glad to any discussion to.
I'm a big advocate of life insurance, of course, that's what I do, but I've seen what it does, changes people's lives, keeps people continue living the way that they were living, and that doesn't sound bad at all.
So I would like to get approvals for that new insurance benefit, and it's a little north of $3,000, $3,025 or something. But now there are some cutoffs. I think it's 70 years old. They automatically come off the plan, and I think it's a great benefit for our employees. A lot of us are getting older. You know, our families might benefit, you know, from that. And
would they come off completely or just have a reduced benefit?
They would. I think it's
70. I think 70 is 50%, and I think it's 65 is 35.
Yeah, that is a reduced benefit as you get older.
And that also make them aware that that does happen. You know, that's the other thing. I know when I retired, I mean, my insurance went like, because I'd been on their plan all those years, and then I had to go out and find my own insurance. But don't not buy you something earlier in life to cover you later in life.
Yeah.
They need to be aware of that also. That is not going to continue, or if it does, it's going to cost the fire.
And that was my next question, just even the current plan, after an employee leaves or retires or terminated or whatever, can they keep their life insurance, or does it terminate?
If they had bought extra, they can keep that, but the town's 15,000.
Town does not.
Well, I mean, I didn't know if they could convert it.
I think they've got that option.
Okay.
And we'll get that nailed down for sure. So what I'm hearing is y'all are in support of it. So can I hear a motion that we approve the new life insurance benefit? Motion made by Alderman Gardner. Here, second.
Second.
Second by Alderman Probst. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, nothing else on the agenda. Here, motion adjourned.
I'll make that.
Motion made by Alderman Betts, second by Alderman Smith. All in favor.